Yes, the citizens movement, we took into account your concerns when we went around the country to consult you with regards to the electoral matters. So this is why we are here today, where we have launched our electoral reforms blueprint, which we have called PREPARE, meaning the Pre-Election Pact on Electoral Reforms. In this document, taking into account your proposals, your suggestions on best how we can improve our electoral environment as we approach the 2020-23 elections, we came up with 7 minimum electoral demands, which we believe as the citizens movement that if those demands are taken into account, we are going to have an election that is free, fair, credible, and not contested. Remember, we are coming from an era where we have a vicious cycle of disputed elections, and looking at, for example, just the 2018 presidential elections, the harmonized elections in 2018, there were lots of discrepancies which up to now have not been resolved. And if we proceed in that manner as we approach 2023, then we risk having an election that is contested. So as the citizens movement, we are proffering 7 electoral reform pillars, which we have launched today, which we are going to use as the basis for negotiating with electoral stakeholders that have an input in terms of promulgation of electoral laws. Firstly, we're speaking about the right to vote. Section 67 of our Constitution is very clear to say each and every person who is a Zimbabwean citizen and above the age of 18 has the right to vote. So here we're talking about the diasporans, we're talking about people that are in incarceration, in prisons, we're talking about the people that will be hospitalized on election day, we're talking about people with disabilities who cannot access the polling stations that are very distant from where they reside. So this is what we're looking at with respect to the right to vote, and also the right to access, voter is to access ID registration. We know as a country we have over 2 million young people that have failed to access, the right documentation to enable them to register as voters. So that is one critical concern that we have raised. And the second issue is about the credibility of the voters' roll. We have noted in the past that we have a voters' roll in most instances, a voters' roll that has lots of discrepancies. We wrote to ZEC in February highlighting those discrepancies, and we feel if those discrepancies are not addressed, then we risk having an election that is disputed. And also with regards to the voters' roll, we as the citizens movement, we are saying we want a voters' roll that is authenticated. We want a voters' roll that is verified, particularly on election day, whereby we are able to ascertain that each and every person that will be on the voting booth is a person who's supposed to be in that polling station. So that is one area that we have proffered in our document. And thirdly, there's the real-time and credible results management transmission system. We want a results announcement that is real-time. We don't want situations where results take days to be announced. And even if you look at the 2018 elections, where a situation where ZEC announced its 3 sets of different results for the same presidential election. So those are some of the concerns, that we want results that are accurate and verifiable, and more so we want results that are verified and announced at polling stations, regardless whether this is the presidential result, this is the parliamentary result, this is the council result. All results should be announced and verified at each and every polling station and posted outside the polling stations. Fourthly, there's the integrity of our election processes. We note that, for example, looking at the personnel that are mandated with administering our election management, we are saying that those personnel should actually pass the non-partisan test. They should pass the objectivity test. They should be appointed based on merit. So this is what we are saying. And even on the electoral processes, we're looking at the issues to do with delimitation, voter registration, cleaning of the voters' roll. all processes that we're talking about, we say those processes, they should be done in a consultative manner with all stakeholders, and they should be done in a transparent manner, which at the end of the day will be important in assessing their credibility and integrity. And also the fifth issue is with respect to the issue of political freedoms and media access. We have instances where we have a polarized media. You go to ZBC, which is a public broadcaster, you'll be mistaken to think that it is a ZANU-PF radio or a TV program. Same applies to ZBC radio station. So these are some of the concerns that we've raised. We want a media that is diverse, open the media airwaves to many players, so that Zimbabweans are able to get the information that is credible, the information that is authenticated. Everyone has the right to information. Let's fulfill that right for all Zimbabweans. And speaking also of political freedoms, we've realized there's the aspect of command voting, for example, in rural areas where people are marshaled to polling stations, where citizens in some instances are forced to declare voter illiteracy, so that you'll be assisted as voters, and to get in some instances some traditional leaders, and in some instances some ZANU-PF people are forcing you to go to the polling booth with them to ensure that you vote ZANU-PF. And we have instances where we have nurses, doctors, teachers, or even headmasters, declaring illiteracy. So this is one challenge which we are saying should be addressed. And also the role of traditional leaders, the role of security forces. We have the police at times, we have which have banned our rallies in a manner which is not justifiable. So those are some of the concerns that we've raised. We have the security of the vote. In the security of the vote, we are talking about the protection of the vote itself. We are talking about election observer missions. We are saying election observer missions, they should be allowed to come and observe the elections. They should be allowed, given leeway for them. We want a long-term election observer missions, so that at the end of the day, we want election observers that only come, a week or so before the elections. Yet we are saying they should actually observe the full throttle of our election process. And also with regards to security of the vote, we are talking about the post-election era, with respect to the the transition, to say then we need clarity in terms of the results that have been announced, in a new presidential leader coming up. What are the transition mechanisms that should be in place? So we need clarity on that matter. And lastly, we are speaking about the security of the voter. What happens to the voter after election? We've realized after the by-elections that we have just said, some voters started being denied the vote, some voters were beaten up, some have actually been expelled from the villages that they were been staying, and even particularly looking at resettlement areas. So the voters don't have the security. So voters should be given their security, given the opportunity to exercise their free choices without intimidation from whoever will be intimidating them in their vicinities where they stay. So basically, those are the 7 electoral demand issues that we've proffered, and we are going to sit down and negotiate with other political parties, with ZEC as the elections management body, with the Minister of Justice as the ministry who is responsible for the promulgation of laws in the country, and also negotiations with our civic society organizations, because they are the ones that stay with you in communities. They know your needs, they represent your needs. So this is where we are, but we will continue coming back to you as the citizens of Zimbabwe to consult you and gather your input and give you feedback as to where we are and where we are headed to as a party. Thank you.